Mike. What are we doing here today? No, you go.
Okay, all right. Hey, thanks for showing up today. This is Mike Bustamante, Dave Kidder, and we're going to be interviewing Karen Yule. She's going to be giving us some information on VA loans and what can really help out the vets these days. She's got some fantastic information. Dave, you and I are from Keller Williams, and I'm glad you could join me today for this fantastic interview we're about to have.
Well,
Go right ahead.
so again, my very good friend Karen Yule, and what we're going to talk about today are VA loans and CALVA loans, and Karen is an expert on that. And I've sat through several of your meetings, and I've learned more about them from you than anybody else in the industry. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Karen, and also a little bit about why VA loans at this time.
Hi, everybody. Karen Yule. I am a VA and CALVA specialist. I am actually certified by the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. So it's official that I'm officially an expert. I've been doing VA loans for forever and a day, and I focus on them because I saw how some veterans were not being treated the way that I felt like they should be treated in the real estate market.
Wow. So I think some of the misconceptions out there about VA loans is that they're difficult, or I know that in the past maybe I've shied away from, and I think sometimes I just don't understand why. But why VA loans? Why could that be an advantage to a home seller?
Well, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about VA loans, that they are more difficult. The first issue that a seller would probably have a problem with would be appraisals. In the past, VA appraisers were notoriously, they would bring the appraisals in short. They were notoriously difficult to work with. And that has changed dramatically over the years. And VA guidelines for appraisals are actually looser than FHA. So if your seller is interested or willing to take an FHA offer, they should certainly be willing to take a VA offer, because it's actually easier. It's an easier appraisal process.
Okay, and I know the couple that I've done this year, VA, they came in at value, and we closed, I think, under 30 days, and so there wasn't a huge delay, and there wasn't a lot of things to be done with the house. It was actually pretty smooth, and it was an older house too. So the one I'm thinking of. So what's the VA loans? Of course, aren't for everybody, but to qualify for a VA loan, who's your typical borrower?
Veterans or currently enlisted. Also, we have the 144th Airborne Division here, and they are Air National Guard. And so a lot of those people qualify for VA financing as well.
Okay. And is there a minimum amount of time they have to serve to be eligible for their loans?
There is, and those guidelines can get kind of complicated if they've, especially if they're in the Guard. If they have served active duty, then they're available. They qualify immediately. But if they haven't done active duty, then they have to serve for 6 years.
Okay. So let's say I'm a vet. Go ahead and say that.
You're a vet.
Okay, thank you. I'm not, and thank you for all the vets out there for serving. I really do appreciate it. If I were a vet, though, what's my first step? If I wanted to find a house, what's my very first step I should take?
Calling a lender to get pre-approved. There are some misconceptions. I do hear from veterans who call me and say, "Okay, I want my money. I'm a vet," and there is a qualification process, just like any other loan. One of the advantages to VA is that our credit score requirement is 580, so that is significantly lower than conventional, and there's no monthly mortgage insurance. So the VA, so the VA loan would be a better option than conventional anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the best loan program that exists, because it is 100% financing. A down payment's not required, and there's no monthly mortgage insurance.
Wow. So how much money do I need out of my own pocket to buy a home if I'm a vet?
Realistically, you need probably about $1,000, because you have to be able to pay for the appraisal. You can be credited for the appraisal at closing, but the fee does have to be paid to the VA upfront at $600 across the board.
Okay.
Every lender should give you that same price. And you're going to have to pay for any inspections. So if you want to do, have a home inspector take a look at the property, that's not covered through the loan. So there are some out-of-pocket costs that a veteran would need to pay.
Are there things that the seller can pay? So I think sometimes people ask for closing costs from other kinds of loans. Are there things that the seller can pay if, I mean, I'm sure it's all negotiable.
Sure, the seller can pay all of the closing costs.
Okay.
Yes, there are not any fees that the seller is not allowed to pay. The seller is not required to pay all of the closing costs, though. If the veteran has the funds and is willing to bring them to the table to close, they can cover them themselves.
And that's going to make it easier to negotiate if the buyer or the vet has money up front.
Yes, that will make their offer stronger.
Wow.
But you know, a lot of FHA buyers ask for closing costs as well. Okay. So the closing costs really that amount really shouldn't be any different with a VA loan
or an FHA.
Right, or FHA. So, well, even with a conventional, the buyer can ask for closing costs. So those numbers should be similar across the board.
Wow, cool. Okay. As far as time to close, what time frame are you usually looking at from start to finish?
A minimum of about 21 days. The VA appraisers do have 7 business days to get us an appraisal, and then the appraisal goes to the VA for a certification process that can take another 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
So the appraisal is generally the holdup, but those time frames, 7 to 9 business days, that's the same amount of time that we're seeing conventional and FHA appraisals in as well. So it really doesn't affect your ability to close. I will say that CalVet loans do take longer to close. I like to tell people that getting a loan from CalVet is like getting a home loan from the DMV. It's a government agency. Yeah, and they tend to lose paperwork more than once. And that's a good reason to have me involved. You can go directly to CalVet, but you don't have an advocate like myself in your corner if you do that. Okay. By using me, I hold your hand through the process. When they lose your paperwork, I send it over and over again. And so I've been able to get CalVet transactions closed in 30 days. Typically, those take 45.
So what's the advantage of a CalVet loan?
One advantage is that it has 0 credit score requirements.
So I could get a loan.
No, not you.
No, I got out of that.
Any vet, but not you. Yes. So if you know, especially younger guys that have served their term, their service, and haven't built any credit, if they've got 0 credit scores, I can get them into a home with CalVet. CalVet doesn't use what we call in this industry desktop underwriter, which is an automated loan approval software that's used by Fannie Mae, and they don't use it. So they have common sense underwriting guidelines. So if
no offense to underwriters.
Well, they're caught me off guard.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, it's actually really good though. So I've been able to get loans for veterans done through CalVet that have really low credit scores and that have been turned down for VA loans 3 and 4 other places. Okay. And CalVet's big hot button is current lates. So if you're currently late on your bills, then no, CalVet's not going to loan to you. But say you lost your job and you were out of work for 6 months, but you've been back on the job for 6 months, on your new job for 6 months, and you're paying everything on time, but your credit score is still hammered because of those old lates. Okay. CalVet will loan to you. Whereas if your score was under 580, you'd have a difficult time finding a VA lender to close a transaction. The other big advantage of CalVet is that CalVet offers a second. There are income limits on it. You have to income qualify. But the second can be used to cover the closing costs. So if you do need to have the seller pay your closing costs, then you're asking for less money from the seller.
Sure.
Typically, closing costs run about 3%. So if it's a $300,000 purchase, it's $9,000 you're asking the seller for if the veteran doesn't have the funds to close. Okay. But with CalVet, you can get the second to cover your closing costs, and they do have non-allowable fees, but those would run about $3,000. So you'd be asking for about 1/3 as much, and so sellers are more apt to accept those offers when they don't have to contribute more to close.
Okay, I want to go back to the credit. So if I have lost my job and I get behind on my payments, but for say 6 months I'm current, is that 6 months? Is that the barrier?
No, actually it's not. It really depends on the situation. I'm working with a veteran right now who's going through a divorce. His ex-wife is not paying the bills that are going to be assigned to her through the divorce.
Wow. Okay.
And those bills are they're going to be in the marital settlement agreement. It's been agreed to. We're just waiting for a judge to sign it,
Okay.
saying that those are her debts. So once the divorce is finalized, I can go to CalVet with the marital separation agreement and say, hey, look, these aren't his debts. They're debts that she's agreed to
Wow.
pay.
So
let's not penalize him for her not paying her bills on time. And I'm sure I'm not going to have any issue getting him approved, and that'll
Okay.
be as soon as I can get a signed marital separation agreement. So if she's got running lates, again, it's common sense underwriting. That's the kind of thing that you can't do with a regular VA loan. But with CalVet, they look at things situationally and look at all of the variables, and in that kind of situation, the vet shouldn't be penalized. And so they'll approve the loan.
Way cool. Okay. So VA loans compared to CalVets, is it mostly VAs that you do, or is it an assortment?
So VA loans are a total of about 75% of my business. Okay. And I would say that 50% of what I do is VA and 25% is CalVet. And that just depends on the particular veteran situation.
So I want some kudos to you, because I know a lot of, more kudos. Here they come. Mike, you got kudos? You want to start in on her, or can I?
Well, I do have a couple of questions for her.
Fire away before I hit her with my
All right, great. Hey, on the VA loans now, you're saying that your loans that you do not have to have all the origination fees involved. Is that correct?
No, I don't charge an origination fee on VA loans. And the veteran's going to want to make sure that they're working with a lender that does not have any origination fees, because if their lender's charging them an origination fee, there are fees that the seller is required to pay. If the lender's not charging an origination fee, then the seller is not required to pay any fees.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That makes it much better than an FHA loan then, because you're not asking for anything back from the seller. That's good.